Welcome, Restonians, and welcome to the greater Reston community who might choose to join us tonight. Tonight is a listening session. That means we're ears. We're not. I'm going to give you a long diatribe. We're here to listen to you. Have our ears open. My co-host tonight. I'm president of Reston Association, and my co-host tonight is Hank Lynch, our CEO. He's been with us about 18 months. So, Hank, would you like to say hello?
Oh, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Julie. I'm glad to be here, and this is my first listening session, so I'm looking forward to it.
Now, this is our first virtual listening session. We have had some listening sessions over the years, and I certainly miss that personal interaction with people. Whether they were at elementary schools or wherever we had them. But as we all are dealing with COVID and getting to a new normal of video conferencing being the same as if, that we're going to try that mechanism tonight. And we have a couple more listening sessions scheduled for the fall. So look forward to those. Have a few ground rules I'd like to review tonight. Zoom does have a button to raise your hand and be recognized so that we can take you off mute and allow you to speak. So find that lovely little button and use it. I can't guarantee that our meeting managers are going to pick up that, wave of the hand or a note in the chat room, but so please use that and they will unmute you to speak. Let's try to give time to all participants. So be respectful of that. And I told you the chat room will be open. There's two things I wanted to share with you tonight. The first one is that just recently on Monday night, the board met and we took a vote to provide 50% discount to our recreation passes going forward through the rest of the season. And also, we felt it was only fair to all of our members who had purchased a recreation pass that they also be on the receiving end of that 50% discount. So can't guarantee you exactly when you would get your credit or refund if you have already purchased a pass. We're looking into the mechanics of that. It's not something that we have much experience doing, but we will do it, and you will get it in 2020, if not before. Sometime in 2020. The second thing I wanted to discuss, because we have been listening, we've gotten a multitude of letters sent to the board of directors on golf courses. And if you might recall, back in 2016 and then in 2018 and recently in 2020, the board of directors reaffirmed their resolution that Reston is a 2 golf course community. And our position on that has not changed. We have in our land development on our website some additional facts about that. Did a video, so while we welcome and are thankful for that community outpouring in letters and emails, we have been assured by both the county and by Supervisor Walter Alcorn that the current comprehensive plan review going on now is not authorized to open up any discussion of golf course development. So that's under the current comprehensive plan review going on. So, but I don't want you to think that we're not there behind you, the community, and very supportive of retaining our open space and preserving our open space. It's very integral to what we are as a community. So that's my 2 big pieces of things I wanted to share. And Hank, I believe you had a few before we move into what this thing's all about, and that's listening.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, so this is one thing, the first thing I would like to share is that if you've gone onto our website, you've probably seen that our website platform has changed slightly. And we did that because the website platform has been running on an extremely outdated and unsupported structure. And at the recommendation of our IT director, the website was taken down and replaced with a temporary website. And this is being done while the association moves to a more up-to-date platform. So we're asking you just to be a little bit patient. If some of those older documents that you you used to click in to see aren't exactly there right now. They will be. This is a temporary site that we're using, and it will provide members with essentially all the information they need to conduct business with the association, including board and advisory committee materials, parks and recreation information, and property owner resources. It just looks a little bit different right now, but it will do the job. And so just please be aware when you try to get on the website, that's what we've done. And I think the other thing that's important to share is that COVID-19 has truly impacted all of our lives, and has truly forced many of us at the Reston Association to do something the organization's never done before, and that's telecommute. And so many of us have been doing that. However, it doesn't mean that we are not doing our jobs to the best of our abilities. And while certainly the pools, tennis, and pickleball courts and our camp season has been impacted, along with some of the non-assessment revenue we bring in through rentals and things like that, we are still working very, very hard on behalf of all of you in Reston to take care of our trails, open spaces, mowing the ball fields, doing all the maintenance that's really, really important and what keeps our community looking the way it does. To date, as we shared with the fiscal committee last night, we have seen about a reduction in earned revenue, slightly more than $2 million. So that does indeed hurt. However, staff has been very, very good at reducing expenses. So we've actually reduced expenses more than that. So right now, we look like we're going to be doing fine and have a balanced budget for the end of the year. And we are currently working and looking at the 2021 budget. And I suspect some people may ask us some questions or bring that up tonight. Please be aware that we are looking to be exceedingly conservative as we put the 2021 budget together. And those are two things I'd share. So thank you.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about too, the purpose of this as a listening session really is to help us come up with new ways of engaging and reaching out to our community and getting them involved, whether it be through focus groups or work sessions, et cetera. And, I know that there's one coming up with the Lake Thoreau pool renovation. So materials are going to be posted on our website, and there'll be community, again, via Zoom, review of some of those ideas. So that's just one example of something that we're trying to more actively use this media.
Thank you, Julie. I missed that. I forgot about that one.
It is in my district, so
On Tuesday, I believe Tuesday the 21st, Kimley Horn, who is leading the outside consultant that's leading that project, will be posting some of the design charrettes that the group had worked on with the community several months back. They'll be posting it online, and there'll be some instructions for you all that are interested, and hopefully all of you are, to take a look at those, give us some feedback, and help us continue with the process of the Lake Thoreau pool and improvements. Unfortunately, we do have to do it virtually until COVID-19 hopefully clears enough that we can all start meeting again in person.
So I think that's what we had to kind of start off the meeting with, and see what other folks might be thinking about, things they'd like to share with us. For those who are just joining now, we kind of asked if people could press their
Julie,
hand button.
this is Sean. We
Yes.
have a question from Ed Rubishaw. He has asked in the chat, have there been staff layoffs or furloughs at RA?
To this point, no full-time staff member has been furloughed or laid off. There's an enormous number of seasonal staff that come in to do things like camps and pools and work in CSF and things like that. Those positions have been put on hold for now. So that's where, so to answer your question directly, there have been no full-time staff layoffs or furloughs. However, our seasonal workforce has been cut dramatically because they just haven't been needed up to this point.
And we're trying to do the best that we can, CSF being the central services facility, so the folks that do a lot of the grounds maintenance and additional work like that are considered seasonal.
John Lewis here. Can you tell me what have you got staff doing if none of them are in the office? How do you supervise? What kind of productive things are you getting done during this period?
The same amount of work is getting done as always. I'm sorry. Can you put on mute? We're hearing some feedback. Yeah. Thank you. There we go. The staff is performing all of the duties they normally would be doing. Telecommuting is something that's been around for years, and it's just something that Reston Association hasn't been doing with their office staff. There are staff that do meet with the public that, for example, we do have hours for the member services facilities. They're staff that go out and are still doing maintenance and all the things, all the amenities that we own, the tennis courts, the swimming pools, all of that. Office staff is still performing their duties as assigned. So we get together by using both Zoom and we use a Microsoft Team. In fact, Microsoft Team has, if you haven't used that, has a call button. So you literally can just call like you were going down the hall and knocking on a door, and you can reach out to any other staff members. So that's how the work is getting done. And we still have board meetings. We still have the capital projects have not been affected at all from RA staff perspective. They have been impacted by suppliers and finding contractors, but we actually are well on our ahead of where we were last year in when it comes to the capital projects that we've been assigned and working on. So hopefully that answers your question. But yes, staff is working diligently, and they're working from a telecommuting perspective.
I don't know if our RA staff has found it any different than what I found. I have tele worked for decades, and with the pandemic, I have found that I'm actually working even more hours than I did before.
Really? I was curious. I missed the first 5 minutes, so this question may have been covered, in fact, by the CEO. My question was this: how can the budget be unchanged if you cut out so many activities like summer camps, a whole bunch of activities you cut back on, lessons? I don't understand why you wouldn't be able to reduce the budget substantially.
The forecasted, thank you. The forecasted budget, a lot of the expenses, the non-assessment revenue expenses, come with some of the services that we couldn't offer. So when you look at cutting both the revenue side, and then you have to look at the expense side, they balance out to a certain degree, and that's how we've been able to do it. Additionally, we've been authorized for new hires and several new projects, and so as you look at the budget, if you were scheduled to fill a position in March, we've put that on hold until September. So, and in some cases, we've said, well, we're not going to fill that position this year. So by looking at all aspects of the budget and going to the department heads and the staff and saying, look, this is the reality of the situation. We need to look at how we can control expenses and balance them against the lost revenue. And the majority of the lost revenue has indeed come in through underperforming non-assessment sources like summer camps, pool passes, rentals, those sort of things.
Julie and Hank, we've got a question from Carla. What things are RA doing to help young adults stay busy and engaged with activities during the pandemic?
Young adults? I mean,
Yeah.
are you talking about teenagers and how would you define young adults?
Yes, teenagers.
We basically do not have a lot of programs that we can share with teenagers. However, there's been Camp in a Box, which was initiated in order to that's for younger children. I don't think, at least when my children were teens, I don't think they would have seen Camp in a Box as something they'd want to be doing. But I would say that we really don't have a lot of programs for young teens, other than going out and using our open space, going to the ball fields, using the paths, and recently now that the tennis courts and the swimming pools are open, that's what they can use. But our summer camps, unfortunately, have not been able to be operated this year, and that really came down to a decision based on input from both the governor's office, where they gave us policies and procedures we had to follow, as well as health department folks at the state level and the county level. And it really became, from a public safety perspective, especially for the young people that would be attending, as well as the young seasonal staff that would be working, it just became something that couldn't be done. And so unfortunately, that's where most of our young adults would have participated, and we just can't offer that this year.
Hi, this is Joy from the Shores Cluster. And first I want to say I feel very blessed to be in Reston during COVID-19 because you couldn't ask for a better place with access to nature. So I, on a daily basis, really appreciate having the Glade Trail at my doorstep. And I'm a resident of Lake Audubon. And I apologize if I'm a little bit off base and kind of making a request for what I would call future vision. I think the coronavirus has really given us an opportunity to pause and consider the direction that we're taking in Reston, because it is truly such a gem and many people have discovered it. And I have emailed some members of the board, so I understand you've already heard some of my questions or comments on this, but this summer has been the summer of so many people out on the lake, which is a blessing on one level. Memorial Day, to hear children laughing was really, I mean, the best part of spring. It's been the best part of this year to hear people enjoying themselves with so much dark news. So the flip side of that is our trail is so crowded. In our neighborhood, very few people are using the lake path anymore. And it's raised the question of, are all these people really Reston residents? And some years ago, we improved signage, which is great, but we left off what the police had suggested, which would be better visual signage, clearer markers for people. If we can direct people to Lake Anne, where there are, small business opportunities that would benefit from having people there, great. The possibility of a dock is something that I floated back in 2016 informally with Larry Butler, because people are coming to hang out, and at some juncture they want to stop walking, so they typically will use private docks, and that has its own set of issues, and it's very unpleasant to call the police. We don't want to do that. So I think there is unmet demand and unmet consideration of maintaining our amenities for Reston residents who contribute to the maintenance and want to be able to also recreate peacefully. I think it's great that lots of people come here, but then we get to the but, and the coronavirus has really raised the question of, is there a tipping point? And it seems that certainly along the lake that we have. And one other big ask on my part as a long-term water person, the bacterial level in the lake really concerns me when I see people swimming who have no idea how dirty the lake is. And I feel like we have a basic responsibility to at least post on a weekly basis bacterial levels. so that people are aware of possible, disease and infections they can pick up. So those are issues I would be very grateful if the board would consider. Again, who has access to our paths in the lake? Can we get a public dock to meet the need? And can we also improve and monitor our water quality? Thank you.
One thing I will mention, Joy, and I'm well aware of a lot of the things you brought up. We've talked about those over the years, and I support you on that. We did establish a recreation facilities working group earlier this year, and that's to take a broader look of all of the type of amenities that we have, whether it be trails or lake optimization use, et cetera. How might we serve the community better? I know that we have also looked at trying to do a better job on some of the signage for don't swim, right? It's not safe to swim, or this trail is the Reston Association Trail, and that trail is the golf course's path. So there's things like that I know that we're constantly looking at. But I think your point of taking the vision, taking this time and looking out further and saying, okay, what has COVID taught us or brought to light that we didn't, whether we took it for granted or we didn't realize how special it was. So I agree with you on many of those points, and thank you for bringing those to a broader audience than just a few emails back and forth between us.
Well, and Julie, thank you. But I'd also like to emphasize, as much as we say don't swim, you're going to always have people who swim. So I think we just need to understand that fact and get information that would help people, do things more smartly. But thank you.
Yeah.
We have a question from Ed. Is RA considering keeping some of the remote efficiencies for the many board and committee meetings?
I'm going to try to answer this but Tony may vote in on there. Some of what we've been able to do with virtual conferences is because of temporary legislation with the state. So that may inhibit some of our ability to do that going forward from a legal standpoint. But I think that the mechanism sure has, from my perspective, it's allowed more people to participate. And so I would hope that we will, as Mike Leone works on the communications plan, the community engagement plan, that those kinds of things can be taken into consideration as well. I don't know if Hank or anyone wishes to add to that thought.
There are rules and regulations that we do have to follow from POA and when it comes to meetings, but I think we all are seeing that there is some efficiency in doing it this way. And as Julie's pointed out, there's many more people have been able to participate in the meetings, or even just with a component of the meeting that they're interested in, than I've seen in the period I've been here when we didn't have this. So I'm sure as this COVID moves on, that there will be others like us that may perhaps try to get some changes to the laws that maybe will allow the efficiencies to stick. But right now, I don't think we can answer yes or no, although we would agree that the efficiencies, I think, have helped with participation quite a bit.
We have another question from Phil. What efforts are being made to update the Covenants Committee? Seems the current process is personality-based with the message of my way or the highway. Should it not be a process based on metrics?
Julie, do you want me to?
Yeah, because I'm trying to think, maybe Phil can elaborate it a little bit more. So I'm trying to think I'm not quite sure what he's thinking. But
What I would recommend is if you can, join next week's full board meeting. Our new director of covenants, staff director, Cam Adams, is and his staff have put together a presentation on how we engage and work with the clusters more closely. I think you're going to see that there's a lot of positive steps being taken to improve the experience for all that have to go before the Covenants Committee as well as the DRB, and how an improvement in how our Covenants Department, how RA provides services to all the clusters going forward. And there's a pretty good initial plan that Cam and his staff have put together, and they will be presenting on Thursday, Thursday the 23rd of July. So, I don't know if that answers your question, and Julie probably perhaps has more to share.
I'm not sure which metrics you were looking for, Phil, so you're welcome to open your mic and ask a bit more. I see you there. There you go. Sean, can you?
Yeah, no, I'm. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I had recalled hearing that there were going to be things that were going to be proposed, and yes, I believe you just answered the question that something is forthcoming, and I'll keep track of that. So thank you.
Yeah, one of the things that this board, the 2020-2021 term board, has requested of Covenants is that they come back to us on a bi-monthly basis and give us updates. Tell us more about the progress, because in one of the things that we made front and center in our updated strategic plan was about serving our members, customer service. That is what we are. We're a service organization. And the Covenants property maintenance has a big piece, and we're a homeowners association. So we're looking forward to, Cam just joined us as the new Covenants director in June. So this will be his first full session before the board. So I think we're all looking forward to hearing what he has to say and what their plans are as he develops his people, his staff, and the organization. I know that I think there's one or two people that are coming on board or have come on board in the last month. I think I remember Cam saying.
Yes. Two additional folks that are, their focus is all towards helping and supporting the clusters. So yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there other folks? I mean, we're hoping that we could get some, what's top on your mind in terms of things that you would like to see RA do more of, or things that you think maybe we could do a better job of.
I have a question. My name is Malika Walton. I live in the Polo Fields neighborhood of Reston. And it must be about 3 or 4 years now that we've had the bridges were supposed to be redone in our neighborhood in Polo Fields and in the bridges along the paths. And a couple of them started, I think, in early spring. And then one of them is stalled. And they've actually put up big metal fence around the bridge, and it's just kind of stalled. Yes. And I think I have 2 comments on that. One is like, how do we find out why this has taken so long? I mean, literally the wood was kind of sitting in the parking lot near our tennis courts for, I think, 3 or 4 years. And then it started and it stopped, but I don't understand how I could find out more about what happened. The legend in the neighborhood is one person complained and the whole thing stops, which impacts all of us, not just that one person. So that's one of my comments. Is kind of, I think it's twofold, is A, how do you find feedback from the whole neighborhood and not just listen to one person? And then B, who do we contact? How do we figure out what's the situation? Why don't we get news about the situation from RA and why this is just sitting there? It kind of in this time is reminiscent of the big chain link fence that was around the White House for a few weeks. And we have our little loan in Reston. So I'm just very curious to find out what the process is and how we can find out more about what's happening.
Well, I do know about this because your district director, Karen Anton, has brought this to the attention of more than one of us about how do we get this thing moved along and why has it stalled. Karen, I see you've come up. Sean, can you make Karen able to speak?
I think I'm able. Yeah.
There you are.
Can you hear me? Hi. So, Ms. Walton, yes, I have been in communication over the past several months with some of the Polo Fields residents. Cece, and her last name escapes me at the moment, but perhaps you know her. If you would send me an email at bodanton@reston.org, I will be happy to respond to you tomorrow. The delays are due to unforeseen utility issues. The fencing that was put up was in response to a member complaint about safety issues for children. There had just been, I think, a yellow tape there initially, and so our central services facilities people went and put the fence up in response to those concerns. So but if you send me an email, I will respond to you tomorrow in greater detail about what's going on with that particular bridge.
We'll put in the chat room her email address.
Yeah, I just saw that. I guess the larger question is, though, could there be a way of communicating with neighbors about these types of issues? I'm in this meeting now to kind of find out the process, but there seems to have been no larger communication, and so we have to kind of reach out and find out what's happening. And how can there be more of a, hey, this is going on in your neighborhood, this infrastructure issues are going on, et cetera?
I can comment on that. Additionally, and that's for everyone who's listening, besides when you have an issue like this that you're not sure what's going on, besides reaching out to your representative on the board, everyone can send me an email. It's hlynch@reston.org. And between the two of us, or your reps and myself, we'll get the answer to you ASAP. Again, I mentioned earlier when it came to CAM and covenants to pay attention or listen to next week's board meeting. Next week also, there's Mike Leone and some members of his staff are going to be giving a presentation on how we intend to improve our communications efforts. It's one of the things that needs to be done. As I mentioned when we started the call this evening, that we've had to shut down our current website, go to a temporary website. We're making some additions there, but we are really looking at how to make two-way communication between our members, our community, and us so much more easier. And Mike has I went through the plan with him this afternoon. He's going to go into it in more detail for the board and for everyone who's watching next week. We hope to have this problem or this situation improve dramatically by the first quarter of next year. But these things do take a little bit of time, but we're in agreement. There needs to be a way that not only do we communicate to you as a member and all of the members of Reston that here's a problem and please be aware this is what's going on. You need a really swift way to be able to communicate back to us. I don't know what's going on. Can you please answer my question? And what Mike and his team are putting together will address that.
One of the things that you brought up to me is that question of, okay, you RA know that you're planning to do certain improvements throughout, back to the trails and the bridges, right? And our capital improvements folks, they know which ones they're planning to do this year, or because they're on a schedule. So how might we say to folks, okay, here's, not just in a board meeting, right, but here out into the public space or community public space. Here's the ones that are planned. Here's their numbers, and we're going to get to it this year. Might not be able to tell you exactly what month, but within this time frame, you'll see. And I had a question on one of the bridges I used. I took down its number and I sent an email off to Hank, and I said, "This bridge number, is it in the group that's going to be looked at or not, or this underpass?" So we do have some planned things that I think you're right. Could we not, let people know? We were doing some work on Lake Anne, and how do you communicate to folks that, okay, this is what's going to be happening. Don't be surprised. Don't be calling us and say, oh my gosh, what's going on? So be a bit more proactive, I think, is the message I think that I'm hearing, and I think we should strive to do a better job. And I challenge Mike and Chris to accomplish that. I think I saw that Jennifer had a question, and I think Ed, am I right about that?
That's correct. I believe Jennifer was first. Jennifer, you can unmic there you go.
Yes, I'm there. Thank you. I'm glad that communication has come up during this meeting, and I think that's really important for us to really evaluate and communicate where our members are. This year in particular, I think even though we're in year 2 of the budget process, getting community input on the future after COVID, or what our members think COVID's going to look like in next year, even though it's year 2 of the budget, I still think that that's a really important piece to get community input on. And I don't think it would take a long time, but as the RA staff plan for what budgets look like next year, asking the members if they're going to be willing to put their kids in camps next year or things like that, I think that you could get really good feedback and information from members on things like that. And along the lines of communication, things like Zoom you guys are using now, you're doing it for your committee meetings. I would love to see those committee meetings posted. And I know I've emailed about that, but if we're using the technology now, let's not just use it for the live meeting, let's post it afterwards. That could get some more community engagement and more community information out there so that they can listen when they have the time to listen, which may not be during the meeting. I love how social media usage has increased. I know the RA staff have been working hard at that, but using the other social media platforms like Nextdoor or Reston Now, we see our members making comments out there, and there seems to be a void in RA having a voice to those comments, and kind of picking times that are appropriate for staff to chime in or provide some commentary as our members are communicating with each other. Finding places when you're updating the website so that members can communicate with each other. We all have logons to the website, putting that behind closed doors where only Reston Association members can communicate with each other might actually even help save it from getting out to the general public, but also be constructive for us. Following up on the election cycle, the election committee was going to follow up with those that ran and get some feedback. And I feel like they, in this situation, they've kind of been not able to do that, but get that before our next election cycle comes up, or having the members able to kind of sign up for areas of interest via the website so that they can get information about things that they're interested in. Like the press releases, for instance, I have to go to RA to find the press releases, and I'd much rather as a member have them pushed to me. Or as we were kind of talking about capital projects, like the capital projects newsletter, Chris has a great graph out on the website for those of you who have capital projects going on in your area. We can kind of click and see what the status of that project is. That's really great. But again, it's me having to go to the website or members having to initiate that instead of it being pushed to us. So as you know, I'm all about communication, but those were just a few of my communication ideas. I do have 2 questions. One is the Lake Thoreau pool. As you mentioned, there's going to be an August community meeting. Would love to hear if we still think that the Lake Thoreau pool will be able to be constructed and up or open for next season based on where we are with that project right now.
No.
And then the other second one is the facilities working group. I thought maybe Hank or Julie might want to tell the members about that during this listening session.
Okay. You gave a lot of great ideas on communication, and I know next week you'll want to listen up for Mike's presentation because he actually speaks to some of those things.
Wonderful.
And getting the community engaged on that. I'm fairly sure that we will not have a pool at Lake Thoreau in 2021 ready for use. As you know, we're 6 months behind now because of COVID, and just even people are telling me about the difficulty in just getting permits and whatever to finish some of our capital projects programs, you know. So, and I think back to that opportunity to take this time as COVID and really look to a vision, a future on how often have we had an opportunity to kind of really think about a pool and that facility and how it might serve best a broader community that we have. And that is the reason that I push so hard to have that recreational facilities working group occur in this year and into next, knowing that we were finishing up a 2-year budget cycle in 2021, and the 2021 board would be faced with the next cycle, the next 2-year budget cycle. And a lot of decisions would need to be thought about in terms of some of our major assets. We've got a number of pools that, you know, in the next 5 years need to be addressed in some fashion as to the investment and the return for our members on those. So I'm looking forward to this whole Lake Thoreau process on sharing, having a design firm come in, sharing ideas, the fact that we had, were able to have an in-person session at the RA headquarters to talk about what people would like to see there and to see what the engineering firm is going to come back with us, and then have an opportunity to all talk to it later in August is a good start. I think we have got a good representation on the recreational facilities working group, having one from each district. We do have someone from South Lakes, which lucky for us was also has been on the fiscal committee. And so, you know, we've got a little bit of that on there, and some diversity in the group, and some good background professionally to participate in that review. So I'm looking forward to that being once again a refinement on our process, and it will have key decision points as they go through the steps. So the board is going to be able to, with the community, look at that and make those kind of thoughts on that. I know that one of the things that we've struggled with over the years is the advisory committees and their meeting minutes being accurate and posted, you know, like you say, on our websites. So I think your thought about whether or not if we're going to capture them, if we're going to continue to do those in a virtual conference, is there a way to go ahead and post those Zooms as well as part of their meeting minutes? That might be something that can be looked at. But you've given us a lot of ideas, as always.
Julie and Hank, we've got a number of questions that have come in on the chat.
Go for it.
The first one from Ed. Lots of residents have now had the opportunity to see the stream improvements on Glade and others. Are there any other stream restoration projects planned?
Not at this point in time, no. Is Larry on the phone? A call? Larry might. I hope I didn't get that wrong.
No,
Larry, go ahead.
Larry Butler here. There are no more reaches from the initial stream restoration project for Northern Virginia stream restoration. We are working with the county. We're trying to get them to come in. As you know, they're working on one at South Lakes right now that goes down to Lake Audubon over by Cedar Cove. It's nice that the county's doing that project, which has problems with some utilities there, particularly sanitary sewers. So we're working with them to try to identify a couple others in Reston that they may be able to participate in, or that we may be able to do as well as part of the escrow funding that we got from the original stream restoration bank. But there are no more laid out from the initial mitigation bank.
I think that the South Lakes, the stream restoration piece that goes down to Lake Audubon, I mean, I'm personally really proud of how the county and RA, work so closely to get that project going. And I know it, has taken a bit of time, but there were legal issues, there were environmental issues and whatever. And but it's looking really good. And, we're getting reports from the county as they manage that project, and they're keeping the neighborhood informed as they're going along. So I think that's a great thing. I know that there's some, as Larry mentioned, one of the topics that we've talked in terms of cluster outreach and engagement is, while RA has its own stormwater management issues to deal with on our own land, we also know that we have clusters that have the same issues on how to deal with water management. And I've been in DRB and Covenants panel meetings where that question has come up as well for single family dwellings between each other. How do they handle that? And so we're looking into whether or not we could maybe get some subject matter experts to come in and do some seminars, webinars for our members that on that topic. I know I've seen something from Northern Virginia. Don't remember the acronym, but it's an organization that focuses on landscape and native plants and whatever, and they've offered to do some seminars to help Restonians understand the things that they might do to have more native plants in their own environment. So we're looking to try to help everybody on the major things that they've got facing them.
Phil has also shared his idea that we should use Nextdoor more frequently to communicate with members. Phil, this is Mike Leone. I can tell you that we have stepped up the use of Nextdoor. I will tell you that there's some challenges with it in that neighborhoods sort of create their own kind of geozone on Nextdoor, which doesn't always align with RA's districts, 4 districts within Reston. So sometimes that creates some communications challenges when there's overlapping, but we have started using it more frequently. We will continue to use it more frequently because we know a lot of neighborhoods in particular are using Nextdoor to communicate. Others not so much, but in general, usage of Nextdoor has increased, and we continue to step up our use of it.
That's great, but you should realize that you can tailor and pick the granularity of the quote neighborhoods that you're going to post to. It's there whenever you try and post. You can look into it and just look at the help there.
Absolutely. We also received a question from Carol. She had a follow-up question to Joy's. Does RA have any plans to monitor and reduce non-RA member people on the lakes, particularly Lake Audubon?
Can I answer this one?
I was going to throw it at you.
All right. So about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks now, we did hire one of the seasonals we did hire because we saw an incredible amount of use of all the lakes. We hired a seasonal facilities monitor who is checking for resident, non-resident, and Lake Audubon is one of the hot spots, as we well know, as well as the other lake access areas on each of the 4 lakes. So that seems to have been effective so far. I know, there's some days where he's not out there every moment when somebody comes in, but somebody's putting a boat in, he's going to check if they're a resident, and if they're not, get out and so forth. One of the things that, and Carol and Joy, I know you both are interested in this, there are a lot of people who live on the lakes who invite people over to use the lakes from cluster docks, their private docks, and so forth. And that is a really difficult thing to do. We don't have the resources. We don't have a boat patrol, like a mini Coast Guard or anything. So, we do what we can from our own property, but I did want to say we have hired somebody, and that is one of the hot spots that he is checking.
Larry, is that person also using our RA boat to be out on the lakes and doing any checking of people on, out on the lakes, or is this just land access checking?
Land access, because he's also checking picnic pavilions, ball fields.
Okay. Court monitoring. I know that's, come up on the tennis courts as well.
Yeah, that's primarily Manny doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, there are no other comments in the chat room.
Yeah, I was just
I
checking.
have a question. I'm sorry if there are no other comments. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, and I think this question is for Larry because it's sort of like similar to the question about the lake and whether members, residents and non-residents are using it. Actually, I live in the Sawyer's cluster, right behind, or like on the side of the South Lake Park. And so this park is usually used every weekend, and it seems like it's used by people that are non-residents. And sometimes it even feels unsafe walking in that area on the weekends when it's being used for like soccer games, stuff like that. So I was wondering if there's any check or any sort of like permit that those people should be getting. And how can it, it's just that it doesn't feel safe on the weekends. And they usually afterwards, there's a lot of like trash still over. I don't know if you have any suggestions of where I should reach out.
So you broke up a little bit during that, and what is the exact location?
It's South Lakes Park. It's a park in between Reston Parkway and Soapstone. Down.
That is actually that's a Fairfax County facility. That is not an RA facility.
Between Soapstone and Colts Neck?
Yes, that's right.
That's a Fairfax County park.
Yeah, so what I would recommend you do is contact the Fairfax County Park Authority, and if you want to email me at larry@reston.org, I can get you in contact with them.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry about that. If you hear that, that's my dogs. I'm trying to, I'm running out of supplies on bones to give them during these calls. So, but they might be telling me it's time to take a walk, or they might have seen a fox on the golf course. So I'm going to put you on mute to maybe, Hank, you can help wrap this up if you don't have any more comments.
Mike, do we have any other comments or questions?
Hank, no other comments or questions in the chat box.
Okay. Well,
I did see just somebody was joining, Jerome, and I know we've heard from him. I don't know if you want to see if he's got any question before we close out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was joined late. Thanks for having me. I'm a little guy to bed, so I apologize for hopping on late. But I appreciate it, Julie, for using the info. I just wanted, I know this is a listening session. I just wanted to, and I know I sent you guys an email, members of the board, but I was just curious about the recreation passes, if there was going to be a discounted rate. I just feel like just because, obviously we've cut into a good chunk of the summer already, and because the hours are limited right now, just an hour a day, and the pools are limited, I was just wondering if there was going to be any sort of discount.
You don't have to talk past the close, because on Monday night we had that board meeting that I mentioned to you, and we did vote for 50% discount going forward and 50% discount for those who had already purchased passes.
Awesome. Great. That's great to hear. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, I was out of town.
No,
Yeah,
effective yesterday, the 15th.
Say that again?
It was effective yesterday, the 15th.
That's awesome to hear. I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you. That's very helpful. And obviously, like I think I mentioned, just having a little guy, we want to get him out to the pool. So it's just something we want to consider, obviously, so especially financially. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for letting us know.
Mike, I'm presuming that there might be something in the RA News this Friday about that.
There is, and there will also be information on the website about it as well.
Right, and of course, any of the member services folks that are helping our members are also aware of it, so that's good.
There are no questions remaining in the chat box.
All right. Well.
Oh, I take it. We just got one question from Jennifer. An update on the potential for more pools. The ones that don't have facilities issues would be helpful.
Yes, we are opening pools as soon as we can. I believe, do we have 5 or 6 open now, Larry? And Laura's on vacation, so is it 5 or 6 pools that are open?
6.
6. So, and I'm not sure when the other, when or how many of the others are going to be open moving forward, but I do know there's several under construction or being worked on by Chris and his crew. So we'll post that as soon as we have more information of when the additional pools will be open and where they are and what date they'll be open.
There's a hand up. Connie Harkey has a question.
Yes, thank you. Actually, Carol, for some reason, hers and my comments in the chat session weren't seen. She asked a very good question of whether we could get a contact email, perhaps, or some way to contact the lake monitor. And I'm thinking perhaps, Mike, probably too late for this week's, but maybe the following week's Friday news, you could put that out. We don't want people calling police when it's really just teens and, trying to pass the summer. But the lake monitor, it would be great to have that contact, please.
I would like to add that, Connie, this is a seasonal staff person. Our enforcement is simply to go down and have a conversation primarily with people putting boats in. We have had staff, for years checking on the lakes and so forth. Most people ignore them, cuss at them, and we're not trying to put staff in harm's way. So
I understand.
If that person approach somebody, if there's any hostility, we're backing off, and that's when the police need to be called. And so my preference is that you go through Mike McNamara at the CSF, who's the director for that. And, I frankly don't want individual residents calling a seasonal employee making demands on him when he's got duties other than just lakes.
Understood. I think we can all help on Nextdoor. I know I spent some time trying to educate people outside the area about the RA lakes and how they work and who pays for them. And if everyone on Nextdoor could help with that. It's just one thing we can do to help RA educate our surrounding community. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So are we on the last round of looking for raised hands and chat comments?
There are no other chat comments online.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone who did join and the comments that we received, ideas that we received. And some of those we'll try to figure out how we work them in. Some of them we might have to say, need to think about that a bit more. But it's always helpful to talk to people, even if I can't see you in person. Please know I wish I could. And have that feedback. And I just so much appreciate both the staff dealing with all that they've had to deal with during this pandemic, constant changes from the state on guidance that we've been given and when we can do this and when we can do that. So it's been a bit of a up and down roller coaster for us all. But lucky for us, I think Reston's fared pretty well in managing through COVID. And I thank the community, I thank our staff, I thank our CEO for his leadership through this as well. Hank, off to you. Any closing remark?
All I will say is this is my first listening session, and I took notes and a lot of great ideas, and I appreciate all the suggestions. I also appreciate all the questions. It helps me and helps the staff focus. And I just would say the same thing. I think we are blessed here in Reston, and we have a great board, we have a great staff, and a great community. And I can't thank you all enough. And I am enjoying it very much, and we'll continue to do the good job that we're always trying to do and do it better. So thank you.
And just to make sure, Mike and Sean, we will be posting this to our website, yes? So that others who were not able to join tonight could go back and have nothing else better to do. They could listen up, right? I'm waiting for.
Sorry about that. I was on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got to figure out how to post this Zoom conversation, but that would be the plan.
Okay. Well, it would be a good challenge to have so that we can think about use of video in a more expansive manner throughout the next year, coming year. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to leave you off with another half an hour to your evening. So go take a walk on our trails, enjoy some of that outside air, and be safe, be well, be happy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.